Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today, before I start our episode, I wanted to do something different, something that I haven't done before. My family got some very difficult news this morning, and I wanted my family members to know that I'm with them. And I thought about not doing the podcast at all, but I thought it's one of my dearest listeners, and several of my dearest listeners that are affected by this news. And so I thought what I could do is have us take a minute, 60 seconds of silence, um, just to let those in the community of the podcast know that they're in our hearts. So we're going to do 60 seconds of silence in memory of a family friend. And then we're going to get right into the podcast. So if you'll just join me in silence, I really, truly appreciate you all being a part of. So we'll go ahead and I'll shut up. Okay, we're back. Thank you so much for being a part of that. Actually, I haven't really cried. It doesn't directly impact me, but it directly impacts my loved ones. And just getting quiet really, it can be painful, you know, it can be even more painful when we stop and we set aside the space, the time, and the place where we're going to grieve. And I've talked about that quite a bit in my podcast. I've talked about my difficulties with the grieving process. I don't know how to do it. I don't know that any of us really know how to do it. But one thing that I know that helps me is, and I got this from my psychiatrist, is to create the space, purposefully and thoughtfully create the space to do it. It's an activity that needs to be done. It's a process that needs to happen. And I learned that, and I think it's been helpful to me. So hopefully this and I can be helpful and of service to my loved ones that um, need love right now. So what I wanted to talk about this morning is this is another thing that I was like, what do I talk about? You know, what topics can you talk about after something like that? And I think what is best is that I don't pretend to be some sort of authority on grieving. what I wanted to talk about, not that I'm an authority on anything, but what I am an authority on is my own experience. That's the only thing I'm an authority on. So I wanted to talk about my experience putting my well-being first. And when I was taking notes on this topic a few days ago, because um, I did our Reads and Recovery episode yesterday. I did our World Stroke Day the day before. So I really haven't covered any topics that I've taken notes on for a few days. So I took notes on this topic about 3 days ago. And the topic started out with the idea of first things first. And this is something that I learned in my sobriety. Um, what I'm reminded of this morning as I am really trying to digest, I think what I'm going through is that over empathizing that I've talked to you guys about. When I learn of somebody passing away, then I think about the loved ones of that person and I over empathize. I put myself in their shoes and I think about I'm not only doing my own grieving, but I step into their shoes and I start grieving for more than just me. I start grieving for that person's siblings. I start grieving for that person's parents. Um, and I think what I'm doing, because I'm not resolving anything by doing that, I am causing myself more stress. And what I have learned through my program is that I need to put myself first sometimes. And I have to put myself first most often. And it sounds like a very selfish thing. Sometimes we say that our program is a selfish program because as I'm learning to put myself first in new ways, before I used to put the drink first, I used to put my accessibility to a drink or the drink's accessibility to me first, above all else. That was a very selfish thing. This is different. This is like putting your mask on first before you put the oxygen mask on the person beside you or the child beside you on the airplane. Um, that's what I mean by this, by first things first. It it took quite some time for me to learn how to not drink. And learning how to not drink is learning how to do the normal stuff during my day without taking a drink during it. And one who is not an alcoholic would think, well, you just do it. You just do those things and you don't put a drink in your hand. But it's not that easy because I can drink mentally. You know, what I mean by that is sobriety is not just picking up the drink. Sobriety is also being emotionally sober and mentally sober, spiritually sober. It's being able to be flexible enough to, if something's going on and it's not the best for me, my well-being, I need to be flexible enough to say, hey, this isn't good for me. I'm going to put myself first and do this instead. So today, I had plans to go to lunch with some of my ex-coworkers. And the reason why is because there was a woman who is leaving, moving on to bigger and better things. And she was somebody who really made a big impact on me in the beginning of my medical retirement. I walked away from this job that I loved, and she sent me so many messages, texts. She sent me a package in the mail with an arrangement of succulents, and I still have it today. And it meant the world to me. And I wanted to show her that. I wanted to show her that you were there for me. Now I'm going to be here for you. And that's what I was going to do today. Upon learning this news that affects my family, I decided that it would be best for me to not do that, not do my plans, and instead be available. So, what I'm juggling here is being available, but not being overly empathetic, because that's not healthy for me. What also wasn't going to be healthy for me is if I went to this lunch today and sat there the whole time thinking about my family and being over empathetic in that environment. So it's it's interesting today how I choose to take care of myself. Today, what I was thinking also is if I go to lunch and then I come home and try to be available, I'm not 100% available because I'm probably going to have some triggered symptoms. So it's just interesting today, the decisions that I make in order to take care of myself first so that I can be available to take care of those who need me today. So it's interesting. Again, I wrote these notes down 3 days ago, and today, as I reflect on it, I'm seeing that I'm practicing them in real time. Um, so, what I learned in sobriety about when I'm invited to something, say I'm invited to a work happy hour or something like that, I need to pause before I say yes. I need to pause and look inward and think, why am I doing it? Why am I saying yes? If I'm going to say yes, why am I saying yes? If I'm going to say no, why am I saying no? I need to really get familiar with, because I'll trick myself. I'll say, oh, well, you're saying yes because you want to be around these people. But I need to be honest with myself. Am I really saying yes so that I can be around those people? Or am I saying yes so I can be around those people drinking? Because that could trigger something for me, whether it's triggering me to be closer to picking up a drink or it's triggering me to feed my self-pity, showing up and being like, look, see, I just knew it. Everybody was going to be happy and I'm just going to sit here and not drink. There's weird things that we do to ourselves when we are in recovery. And I'm thinking of this as I've been exposed to a lot of people that are close to me that are grieving right now. And it's not just what happened this morning. It's not just the loss that is in the forefront of my mind today. I have been actively supporting people that I care very much about that are grieving different things. And what I'm very aware of now is why I'm doing it. Because I have to be careful. Am I getting myself involved because I want to be of service, because it feels good to be of service? Or am I wanting to get involved because I'm feeding some kind of sick self-pity or feeding my depression? Do I want to over empathize because sadness feels good? I know that sounds weird, but that's real for me. I can get myself like, let's think of a really light example of this. Like, okay, I turn on the radio. Back when we listened to the radio, we don't do that now. It's like, I don't know. It's XFM. Do we still call that the radio? I don't know. Anyway, I can turn on the radio and I can listen to a sad song or I can listen to an upbeat song. Depending on what I want to feel, that's what I'm going to listen to. And quite often throughout my life, I have put on the sad song because it is giving me something and it's not good. It's not healthy. Whatever I'm nurturing within myself, that depression, um, is something that depression feeds on itself. Like, I want to feel that even though it doesn't feel good. It's kind of like with my eating disorder, like I'm not going to eat because not eating, that starving feeling, is feeding that self-pity and that depression. So very kind of abstract thoughts that I'm sharing with you, but these are real things for me, real thoughts for me. Um, I say a lot of times in this program that we're all recovering from something. And there may be some of you that have heard that, but it hasn't triggered any thoughts. And there may be some of you who understood that right away. Yeah, I'm recovering from a stroke. Yeah, I'm a recovering alcoholic as well. But when I say we're all recovering from something, what I mean is exactly this. I mean that we all have devastating things that happen in our lives, and we all deal with it differently. Um, what I try to communicate, whether it's effective or not, is how that hard stuff can be applied to this program that I practice in all of my affairs. And it's not easy, but I try to talk about it so that it's simple. And I know that sometimes I can talk in circles, so maybe it doesn't sound simple. But anyway, I'm going to shift gears a little bit because I'm going too much down the grieving process. It's hard for me to get away from it today because I just feel like I'm so there right now, in my empathetic state of mind. So going back to the program and how this first things first started for me, um, as we apply the program in our lives, there are times when we feel good. When you take your anxiety medication and you feel really good, so you stop your anxiety medication. Any of you who think I'm talking about you, I'm not, because there have been 3 people so far, I think 4 people, who have talked to me about stopping their medicine, and the crazy just slowly starts seeping in. So I'm not talking about you specifically. There are lots of people that happens to. And similarly, people get sober, they're applying, they work the steps, they're going to meetings, and the gifts, the promises of the program start to come true. Like, we start being more financially secure. We start not regretting the past nor wish to shut the door on it. Like all of these promises that are listed for Alcoholics Anonymous, they start to come true for some of us, and we decide to, well, I'm feeling better. Maybe I don't need to go to a meeting today. Or I'm feeling better. I'm gonna skip this month's women's meeting that we get together every month and talk about a step. I'm going to skip it because I really want to go to a craft show, for example. Well, what they call that is not letting the gifts of the program stop you from showing up to the program. And I don't, or stopping or letting the gifts of the program take you out of the program. I think that's how it's said. Um, and it's so true for me. I have to, on a daily basis, put my sobriety first, not put the gifts first, but put the work first. If I don't put my well-being above everything, I will have nothing. And that also applies to my stroke recovery. If I don't put myself first as far as um, maintaining a reasonable amount of discomfort and pain, meaning not going above a 5, as I've talked about it in the past. I need to keep that first because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to do anything. If I just do enough to enjoy myself but not go over the edge, then I can do more daily. Um, what I've had to, so one thing that I've heard people say is when they go into the program, they're told, um, you don't have to change how does it go? Um, oh, that's what it is. The only thing you have to change is everything. And that's overwhelming. But to think that everything doesn't change all at once. And I think this is something that holds me back just in general in life. I, as you know, am extremely active. So I have to really work at resting and work at slowing down. And I lost my train of thought. Man, it was good. I had a good thing going there. Um, oh, I want everything to happen all at once. So with my sobriety, same thing. Like I practiced step 1 and said, yeah, my life is unmanageable because I'm drinking. And then the next thing I wanted was to go apologize to everybody. And that's a normal thing that lots of people who enter sobriety, it's like, okay, I put down the drink. Now I can go out and make my amends to everybody. And it doesn't work that way. One thing I heard this morning is steps 1 through 3 are getting right with God. Steps 4 through 7 are getting right with yourself. And steps 8 through 12 are getting right with others. And there's a reason why they're all put in that order. Because we really need to look inward and do that stuff first. It's the same thing as putting first things first. That's the stuff that we're doing in the steps. The steps are in order of putting first things first. We're putting God first. We're putting ourselves, trying to figure out what that relationship is going to be, whether it's God or whatever higher power you have. Putting that first, understanding that, okay, next I'm gonna get right with myself. I'm really gonna look inward. I'm gonna work on these things. I'm gonna get honest. I'm gonna talk to another person. But I really can't do that until I understand that I am not God, that the world doesn't revolve around me, that I need to understand that I don't have all the answers, that even if, if I don't have a religious God or that type of higher power, I can look to the program as my higher power. Like, the fellowship is bigger than me. I can't get sober on my own, but I can with the help of people in the program. But it doesn't happen all at once. It's steps, and I can't help it, but grieving is steps too. I feel like we have to get right with these things one by one. And that's why grieving is a process. I can't help it. I can't help it because I'm obsessed today with loss. I'm terribly sad for my loved ones. But this program has guided me in such a way that I have the courage to look at myself. I think a lot of times when I'm over empathetic, it's because it's harder to look at myself, to look at my own well-being, than it is to put myself in somebody else's shoes. It's hard, to look at myself and fix things regardless of other people's opinions. And today I have a whole fellowship of people that have also looked at themselves and got courageous and got right with themselves. They got right with themselves so that now we all get to get right with each other. There is a very deep level of acceptance that has to happen within this process. I can't put first things first unless I truly believe and accept that I can't be present. I can't be joyful. I can't be serene unless I accept where I am right now. Every day, I need to look at my feelings, my emotions, my thoughts, and I have to name them. And no, I'm not sitting around like being overly contemplative, sitting by the fire with a cigar or anything like that. I need to do daily check-ins, like all day long daily check-ins. And that helps me. And I'm going to end there. Thanks so much for today. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.